Welcome to the Enduro Method podcast. Enduro Method is an online strength and conditioning program built for those who ride by those who ride. We are professional coaches dedicated to building the best and most revolutionary off-the-bike training for dirt bikers around. We are offering a special discount for our podcast listeners. Use discount code EMPodcast22 for 50% off your first month. For more information, head to the description of this podcast where you can find the discount code and a link for more information and to sign up.
Cool. Is that going to be your last race for this year?
More or less? Turkey will be my last race, Sea to Sky. And then that's like really going to be the start of the off. Well, there's actually an Endurocross, I think, after that I might do. But I haven't like really looked at the schedule too much just because Endurocross isn't really like a big priority for me. It's just like really something to help with enduro cross sections and real racing and intensity and prologues and stuff like that. I have not much interest in enduro cross full season, right, at least this year.
Yeah, it could definitely be a great cross training, like getting comfortable with some of the prologue stuff for sure though.
Yeah, absolutely. I need that because my prologues are really bad compared to my main races.
Yeah, I've personally considered the same. I'm like, well, like don't have any interest in really racing a series or going hard in the enduro cross because also I'm older and probably get hurt doing it. But like then you just got to bite the bullet if it is a crazy prologue. You just kind of accept the fact that you're going to putz through it, and I don't know.
Yeah, I need to work on intensity and even just getting right into racing, like getting like being ready to race right off the bat, where like typically, and it's weird because it seems like it takes me like say 10 minutes to get in the zone during a short race, but in a long race that doesn't happen. So it's kind of like it's got to be a mental problem, you know. That means it's not a physical problem. It's just like the way I'm viewing mentally a short race is like causing me to like psych myself out in some way, but
right,
try to figure that out.
Yeah, interesting. Like you even though it's short, you're kind of letting yourself ease into it almost.
Yeah, it's like it freaks me out, so I like am like I better just start slow, and
right.
And then by the time I'm into it, it's over.
Right.
So it's like not super helpful.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could definitely see Endurocross brings the intensity.
Yeah, for sure. It makes me nervous. I've only done one, and it was like a local in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And it was super fun, but it definitely was like a little eye-opening, to say the least. I was like pumped up and like heart rate was way too high. And I was like, you make a mistake and it's just like that like fight or flight mode, like instantly, like your race is over now. Like you just screwed up the Jersey barrier and you lost the whole race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, different style. That's cool though. All right, sweet. Well, let's give a little history of Joe Nemeth and maybe how you started riding, when, kind of your journey to where you are now.
Yeah, I started riding when I was 4 years old. I got a Honda 50 on my 4th birthday. I still have that bike, but it was always just like a fun thing for me and my dad to do. A lot of trail riding, a lot of local hair scrambles in Ohio where I grew up. We would do GNCCs whenever they came around close. And then I kind of lost it a bit playing team sports.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up just outside Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
So we were just doing local Ohio hair scramble series, like, and it was seriously just like a fun thing to do. I was really interested in it, but soccer was like my thing. Like soccer was priority number one. I was having coaches. I was at the level where, coaches are telling me not to do dirt bike stuff and all that. So it was like a constant struggle balancing all that stuff. But then as I got like into high school, later years of high school, I realized that like I really liked dirt biking more. And it still wasn't anything I took super duper serious. It was just like a really fun thing to do. Me and my dad go out, camp, ride trail, race occasionally. And then like about 7 years ago, I moved to Utah, so to Moab. And then I was poor. I moved out on my own, and it was like, just like I had a dirt bike and I did dirt bike guiding, and it was still like a huge part of my life. It always has been, but there was absolutely no way I could race. So I didn't race for 5 years.
Right.
Just doing like working dirt bike guiding and stuff like that, and just doing stuff for fun. And then I don't know what exactly happened, but I raced one desert race, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I forget what that feels like, especially doing good, being so like having not raced for so long. And I was like, this could be like an interesting to get back into, because I had a little bit more money at the time, and I had some free time to actually do it. And then the hard enduro thing was just like out of the blue. Like, no, I had no thought. I was the guy that had seen like Erzberg on like a bar TV at some point, and was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. But like past that, and like knowing who Graham Jarvis is, like, it was just like another genre of dirt biking I knew was out there, but I was just like kind of the woods racer, go fast, desert guy. But then hard enduro just like instantly was like it. Like I was like, oh, this is like what I want to do every day for the rest of my life.
What was it about it that kind of drew you in?
I don't know. I think it's always been there, because like I always knew like when we would well, if we were trail riding, I had more fun when it was raining and miserable in Ohio. I had better results at races when it was raining, partly probably due to the fact that there was less people that showed up on bad days.
Right.
But also I just like that. I was like, I think I'm better. I think also being huge, like being 6'4", and like being able to muscle the bike around, like allowed me to like kind of bridge the gap of getting into hard enduro. Like at the beginning, you're just kind of all over the place, and like you're just trying to get through stuff. So like being like able to muscle the bike up something, or just pick the bike up and put it out of the hole, like that allowed me to like, I wasn't having the frustrations that a lot of people have when they're like limited by their size or their physical ability.
Yeah, definitely getting feet down in the beginning is a massive advantage.
Yeah, which I actually argue sometimes that it's really, really nice to be able to put feet down. There's almost no disadvantages to being tall, but it's easier to get bad habits.
Yeah, I agree.
You can dab anywhere you want. You can take your time. You can sit. You can get away with a lot more stuff being big. So you kind of have to, not that that's a disadvantage, but bad habits are hard to unlearn.
Yeah, I think it, like you said, it gives you that shortcut in. And then, but if you want to continue progressing, you've got to take the step back, which is sometimes harder to do once you've felt like you've had that great bump in the initial, in the beginning. But almost take a step back and relearn stuff that, you're able to shortcut. I mean, I feel like I've done the same in areas for sure.
Yeah, but that's kind of like where I'm at now. My first hard enduro was Rev Limiter, the one that was in September. It was the one that got postponed late, so I think it was 2020.
Yeah, the COVID.
Yeah, the COVID changed one. So not last year, but the year before.
Okay.
That was my first one, and then I was like stoked on it. Like horrible, by the way. Like the next day, it was like a zombie movie. I was like crawling out of the tent, like about to collapse and fall over. Could not, like, I was dead. I was seriously like destroyed. And it was super eye-opening, and it was like still like awesome and fun, but like I think I got like 120th overall or something like that. Just scraping by for a finish. And I was like pretty much hooked. And then that whole, because that was like the last race of the year that year, September, I think it was. And then that whole off season, me and my girlfriend Mesa just like we're living out our Airstream, riding dirt bikes and stuff. And King of Motos was the next race. That was like the spring race spring race last year. It was the first race of the year. Yeah. And so we were in Johnson Valley for like a month before the race. Like they literally built that King of Hammers city around us. Like it was kind of cool watching that whole like process like unfold. It's
a massive
like,
production.
we were like in the middle, you're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert. And I mean, we're taking bag showers naked behind the trailer, no one around. And then it's like, oh shit, there's like 20 semis here today. And you come back and there's a stage built. You come back and there's like 20 more semis, and it's like every day more shit. But wow. That whole month was just like really huge for me. Riding those huge canyons out there. Those, like, I think it's like one of the coolest places because there's traction, and you can, when there's traction, you can do the things. You're not limited by lack of traction, so you can really focus on your form. And like, even though it's easier, like you can feel like, oh, that's like a legitimate zap, like I just got that. And then you can progress with it a lot easier, I feel like. And then eventually you can try to do that stuff when there's little or less traction. But yeah, so that was like kind of the start, what brought me into a full West season last year, in the AMA Hard Enduro Series. And then this year we were just like, we're going all in, like double down, full AMA East West, which we did do. And then Romaniacs, Tennessee Knockout. And now we're plans changed a bit. Now I'm not doing Outliers, and we're doing Sea to Sky in Turkey in That's October.
Awesome. Nice. When you went from that first the Rev Limiter to King of Motos, when you were just riding, like what changed for you in your like training on the bike kind of idea, right? Like what were you doing? Like you were just riding trail and riding your bike before Rev Limiter, then all of a sudden you go to that race and you kind of like, holy shit, these obstacles and this stuff. Like what did you start to try and incorporate? Because it's not like, I've said it before on different things, but it's not like trail riding's bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it'll only take you so far if your goal is to really progress in that race setting where you got logs, big rocks, ledges, faces, and stuff like that.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about this at dinner last night, like how the disconnect between somebody that says they ride hard, which is, there's nothing wrong with this, by like, anyone getting out on the bike anytime is awesome, especially if they're like stoked on like hard stuff, hard trails, any type of hard riding, technical riding. But there's like a huge disconnect between people that say they ride hard enduro and just ride trail, and people that like have been to a race before. And it's kind of weird. And I felt this when I went to Romania too. You get told things over and over again, and you're like, yeah, I get it. And then you get there and you're like, now I get it. Like now I actually understand.
Right.
There's no way, there's no amount of talking that can prepare you for some of this stuff. Even though explaining to people what they're getting themselves into is very important when they're like going to a hard enduro for the first time.
Right.
But I started like, obviously I saw the obstacles at Redbull Romaniacs, and this was at the newer property for Redbull Romaniacs. So it was the dry, like quarry, whatever kind of stone quarry it was or whatever. It wasn't the slick property they used to run at. So I was seeing bigger features with traction, which I'm used to being in Moab and stuff. But it changed from like, one thing was, I was doing bigger things and I was trying them hundreds of times. Like I would just go out and try something. I would try something like 200 times before I got it. Whereas before I was just kind of, I almost felt you feel bad when you're trail riding and you like stop to like do something, and then, or you see something like on the edge of the trail and you're like, oh, I'm gonna hit that real quick, but then you have a line of people behind you,
right?
And like you don't know if they're interested in hitting the thing, and like it's just like a weird like. So really, what changed is I started training by myself. I would go out in the morning and I would do 3 hours every morning for a month. I would do 3 hours of like the hardest riding I'd ever done in my life, testing my limits and trying things hundreds of times. And I'd get back and Macy would be there. She was working remotely at the time, so that was her work time for that. And then we'd ride trials bikes for 2 hours in the afternoon. And this is seriously every day for a month. 3 hours on the big bike in the morning, 3 hours on the trials bike in the middle of the day. Let the dogs run around, and then we'd go out on a trail ride later in the day. And that was seriously like at least 6 days a week.
Wow.
For a little over a month. And then King of Hammers or King of Motos happened, and it wasn't a huge turnout, but like I got a really good result. And I was like, and even other people like the Sweeten family, which is like a big name in the trials scene. They're Oregon based, but they're like they were huge too, because I met them, and that was like my first real introduction to trials. I'd only seen them before. I'd never ridden bike before. And as soon as we started talking to them and like riding at their place in outside of Portland in Oregon. They're like, I mean, they're just awesome riders, and Dennis is like a legend, and Keith is awesome, and Kylie's awesome. Like that whole family is just like, they played a huge part in like me seeing what was possible and like what could be done. Because before that, like guiding on dirt bikes and stuff is all you do is ride with people that don't get to ride very much,
right?
Or don't ride at all, and they just want to do like a fun vacation thing. So you kind of feel like a hero.
Right.
It's good to get that reality check in and see like oh, okay, like this is there's huge levels to this,
right?
And that really helped, like just seeing that. And but yeah, that's kind of what changed between that off season, and that really helped, and I was hooked.
Yeah. And then after King of Motos and before the kind of the US season hit off, did you continue that trend or?
Yeah, I did. It was kind of back to reality as far as like work and stuff. After that was kind of the end of our like winter vacation,
right?
Off season. So it was less riding, but I was still, then I came back to Utah, and I was seeing lines that I never saw before,
right?
Which is another big thing. You have to ride trail. The thing that's awesome about racing is it doesn't matter how strict you are in your head out on a trail ride. Like you say you're going to take the hardest lines you can take, but until that ribbon's up and they force you into that spot, like it's hard to like be like, I'm going to be miserable in this section over here when I could just ride this over here and have fun.
Right.
Like, but I started to do that more. And like, there's something to be said about, you know, it's like the type 2 fun deal. Like you get to the top and you're like, that was awesome. Even though you're like dropping your bike on its side and falling over and, you know, cussing at everything.
Yeah.
And then you get to the top and you're like, that was awesome.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for like because I mean, that was kind of our history too. It was only trail rides, and sure, there'd be a hard section that's blown out. So maybe there's multiple possibilities or whatever, but you don't have to do your own route finding essentially, right? You don't actually sit at the bottom of a hill with, 50 feet of ribbon, and you actually have to decide the best option for you to get up the hill and then navigate that around potential bottlenecks or whatever. It's just a very different experience.
Yeah, no, it's different and it's cool. It's hard to replicate outside of it.
Right. And of course, potentially illegal.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Especially out here. I mean, there's no private really.
Right.
You're on public lands, and you want to be respectful of the public lands, and like it's definitely a hard balance, because like, I mean, you're just like, I mean, I'm almost like twitching, I'm itching. Like I'd see a line on the side of the trail and be like, I really want to go over there and do that, but I know I shouldn't.
Right.
It's like a little dilemma there, but there is like something to be said about. That's like a whole nother topic of, I mean, sometimes I say like it sucks, but like another name for hard enduro is soil erosion. Like
for sure.
Like we look at it and we're like, oh yeah, that section's getting real good now.
Right, yeah.
Because it's getting destroyed. Like, which that's why Arizona is so cool, is because they're like a little more, I mean, there's definitely, I really wish there could be more spots for us to go and ride that stuff. And they're really good about like designating areas and being like, okay, like this area's been strip mined, or it's an old quarry, or, there's at some point it's the land's been disturbed, and now they're like, well, it's kind of a losing battle, so we should at least like let these guys have it,
right?
So they can like do what they love to do, like especially with like bumblebee stuff in Arizona, stuff like that. Like really the rock crawler places are the places that I tend to like the most. Like a lot of people are like single track, but I tend to have the most fun where like the crawlers go.
Right. Yeah, you can be real creative and kind of make your own hell, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite race this year in the US Hard Enduro Series? On the West, let's do one from the West, one from the East that really stand out.
So I love Grinding Stone. That was probably my favorite. And it's just really, it comes down to a personal preference on style of riding. It was also my worst race of the year, which is saying something. I had like just some really bad issues with like cramping up and stuff. And that's why I actually started talking to you guys about Enduro Method and trying to like figure out how to solve some issues with my body and have like that not be something I have to think about. Like, am I going to cramp up this race? Right. Like it was really like just like I hadn't figured it out yet. I was just guessing. Like I feel like I wasn't recording any of my stuff. I wasn't, monitoring heart rate. Like monitoring what I was eating before a race, and all those data points are like valuable when you look back and you can go like, oh, well, and obviously there's variables that it's not like a controlled experiment. That's like more like why training is so nice, because you can hit a hard enduro loop and say like the loop is exactly the same, the temp's exactly the same, the time of day is exactly the same, and the only thing that changes is potentially your diet, your what you did the days up leading up to it, and all that stuff. So you can kind of like dial in like I actually felt really good today. Let me look back at all this stuff and see if I can replicate that again.
Yeah, totally. You have a record like, hey, I slept 8 hours a night for the last 3 nights. I felt really good on this day. I slept 4 hours the last 2 nights and had a couple beers, and I feel like shit today.
Exactly.
Right.
But yeah, Grinding Stone was definitely my favorite West race, even though Donner was like a huge step up from what it was last year. Like they did a great job. Like I think it was, I thought it was too easy last year. And they did a great job stepping up to the plate. And I think that's like probably the best race for like everybody.
Right.
Like is if you went from like C class, B class, A class, pro, that was the best race for anybody who showed up. But on the East, I gotta say Tough Like Roar. It's just so good. Tough Like Roar is like, and those guys, like, you can tell when somebody actually cares about something. They're just like, talking to them after the race, they're like, yeah, in a week we're going to start building the course for next year.
Yeah.
It's a full year project for them. These guys, like, most of the guys building the trail out there can't even ride the sections. They're just like, but they're smart about it. I mean,
right.
They're into it. They love it. They're a little bit older. So they're just like limited by their age.
Right.
But they're like fully like, it's pretty cool. That course was like so fun. And I didn't get to ride the whole thing because they put the added sections in, which I like that setup as well, where you like first lap is extremely difficult but progressively harder, and then the second loop they add sections in, and that gets like to a whole nother level. I think that's cool, and the amount of checkpoints and stuff like that, which is like a constant debate in like hard enduro, is like checkpoints and scoring and all of these issues we have. But no, those are probably my 2 favorite US ones for the year.
Nice. And then so you finish up this US series and then went over to Romania.
Yep, the day after. Yeah, so I did shotgun in PA, and then the next day was my flight to Romania.
Wow. And what did you do for your bike? Did you break that down, ship it over, or just suspension? Or
just suspension and a couple like protection parts that I thought I would want.
Right. And then everything else you got over there, tires, mousses, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was all supplied by the guys I went through with the bike rental, and I got like a 0 hour. It was a pretty good setup. Everything's expensive, but Radu with Sherco Romania was like awesome. Like they have a shop in Sibiu, like, so I never even had to go to the paddock and like deal with the big crowds and the traffic and getting in and out of there. To like do until the last day, which is the day we started in the paddock in Sibiu. Until that day, I had never been there because they have a shop in town, and so you're like sitting in an AC, like nice shop, like working on your bike, and they have a full-fledged shop up front, so like all the parts you'd ever need or break, and I needed them. I've been a set of bars and stuff. during that race. So.
Oh, I think I saw a photo of that. Yeah.
It wasn't great.
All right. So you finish up over here, you fly over there. Yeah, let's go through that.
Yeah, I actually kind of think I overextended myself a bit. Shotgun was a hard race. It was really hard on me. I wasn't feeling like, well, I think nobody felt like they were riding good. That's just super hard to terrain, super hard to read the terrain, and the rocks move, and it was slick from a little bit of rain we had the day before. So I was just like destroyed, and then drove that night, like loaded all my stuff up in the trailer, drove from PA to Ohio, and then like immediately got to Ohio at like 1 a.m. I slept till 3 a.m. So I slept for 2 hours and then started working on my bike, pulling, like washing it, tearing it down, packing my bags, and then flew out that next day. And it destroyed me. Like I got sick really, and I'm not a traveler. Like I don't, and that's something to be said too, is like people that well, at least so kind of an opinion thing, but people that travel a lot are kind of exposed to a lot more, their immune system's exposed to a lot more stuff.
Yeah,
and
I think it's valid.
Yeah, they get used to it. But me, like, I destroyed my body, no sleep, got on a plane with a bunch of sick people, apparently. And then got to Romania, was fine the first day, and then just like lost it, like fever 103.
Oh, wow.
Like just destroyed, sweating in my sleep. Like it was bad. Like I had like a pile of towels next to the bed, and I was like, I would like put a towel down on the bed and like sleep for 20 minutes, and I'd wake up sweating, cold, shivering, take the towel off, throw it on the floor, put the next one down, and like fall asleep for 20 more minutes. And it was like that for the 3 days leading up to the race and the first 3 days of the race. Which was pretty heartbreaking. It was hard to like deal with like that mentally, like shit. Like if I was home, I wouldn't even race.
Right.
Like, I would have just like been like, I'm calling it and going home. Like I need to get this figured out. But putting all that time and money into getting over there, and like you don't get a refund. I feel like you're there. Like if you get hurt on the first day, it's like over. Like that's another thing too, is like it's definitely a battle of attrition, getting through that. But even when you're healthy, like 100% healthy. So yeah, I was dealing with that, and I had paid for 2 days of riding before the race, to like break the bike in, get used to how, even though it's the same bike technically, everything's a little bit different, tweaking stuff and getting used to the terrain out there. And I couldn't even do it. I got on the bike the day before the prologue. I went to Radu, and I was like telling him what was going on. He's like, dude, like you have to get out. And I was like, I don't think I can. He's like, you got to. Like you got to at least like break the brakes in on a 0-hour bike and like ride a couple hills, and like the prologue's tomorrow. You got to figure this out. So I went out, and it was like, I was trying to ride down a rut, like just like easy freaking hill, and it's like that, you're out of your zone, and like you just feel like the bike's just going everywhere. Like I'm like, I can't even get the thing to point down the rut. Like it's just like I ride up the left side, go right to the right side, to pull me back and forth, and I'm just like going for the ride. I was like, oh shit, like this isn't gonna be good. But that being said, I got my adrenaline up, and like started to do some motos on a section I found. And I was like, wow, when my adrenaline gets high, like I think I can push through it. So I got the bike figured out a bit, adjusted my brakes how I wanted them and stuff, and went to the prologue. And actually, like, you know, I've watched, I think almost everybody in the hard enduro stuff has like watched at least 100 videos of Romaniacs.
Right.
It's like no one's not seen videos. And I think this year's prologue was like a bit tame for like what I've seen on video.
Yeah.
So that was nice for me because I was seeing doubles and like didn't even want to do it at all. And I qualified horrible, and just went from there. But like day one off road, after I think I qualified, and that's the other thing is like I was so like upset that of where I was at and demoralized by the whole situation that I still haven't even looked at my times and compared them to other people for any section. I've never even been to the timing and scoring page. Like I don't even want to look. It became like, all right, I'm gonna finish.
Right.
Before, when I going into it, I was like, if I don't get a top 10, I'm gonna be pretty upset in silver. That was my like mindset. And then after that, I got like, I think I qualified 50 something, 59th maybe. And I was like, oh, well, here's the start of this. I guess we're just going to push through. And day one, like I said, like once my adrenaline got up, it was pretty okay. Like I could push through and physically felt like decent enough. And, you know, I don't know what I had. I took a COVID test. It was negative, but doesn't really mean too much.
Right.
But day one off-road was eye-opening just from the downhill perspective. You know, you all hear about the downhills and how ridiculous they are. It's true. And this goes back to what I was saying before, like, you know, talking to Stearns and talking to a couple other people that are like multi-time Romaniacs finishers. They just pound this stuff into you, but you don't know until you get there.
Right.
You really don't. And the downhills are long and they're steep, but they're rideable. And there's a way to do it. And I learned from watching people during the race, which isn't ideal. Like during the race, like as someone passes you, you're like, oh shit, okay, I think I get that. Like their body position is a little different than what I'm used to, and they're braking so hard that their front suspension is compressed to the point of only having 3 inches left.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's consistent, like they're just riding consistently down the hill with their suspension compressed to within 3 inches of the bottom. And I was like, okay, you can brake hard on this stuff. Like there's traction there. Because the hills seem to be the perfect pitch. Like I'm not a snow person, but I know people talk about like something being the perfect pitch for avalanches. It's like a whatever degree slope. It's like the same idea with this, I think. Like it is the perfect pitch to hold soil still. So it's like all dirt, like not much rock there, with trees growing on it. But really steep. Like I don't understand exactly how stuff doesn't get like, I don't know if they don't get super heavy rains. Like I know it rains there, but they don't get like monsoon type rainstorms because the washes on the virgin hills are like, there's no like, everything's perfect. You know what I mean? So it's just you're looking down a very steep hill for forever, like going down for, you know, a downhill where the bike's off for 5 minutes.
Wow.
That's hard on your body too, like holding position. And then you get out of, you're like, I'm getting tired. I think I might like maybe I can sit down for a second. And then you sit down, you're like, nope, can't sit down. Stand back up, get back in a position. Like you need to hold that spot. And then so getting used to the downhills was the big thing. And not racing it like it's a 3-hour race.
Right.
Was another deal. So I was learning that whole first day was like definitely a learning experience. And then after the race day one, I was just back to smoked. Like as soon as like I went through the finish and I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna pass out. Like I think I'm done. Like it's over. Like I don't think day 2's happening.
Right.
Like I was so confident all day long on the bike, and then like as soon as it was over, I was like, shit, like back to reality. Like tomorrow is like a whole nother story.
Right.
But it was the same deal. Like Mesa was there with me, and she was like, I felt bad for her because like I was a basket case. Like literally, she was doing everything but carrying me around in a basket. Like I couldn't go out to eat. Well, I didn't want to go out to eat either because you know, I'm like feeling like shit. Like I don't want to get any other people sick either. So she was getting like, there was a steakhouse around the corner. She was getting me like food from there, carry out, bring it back to the place. I'm like laying there on my side, dead. And she's like lays the food next to me, and I'm just like laying there like I need to eat. I don't want to eat.
Right.
Just trying to get shit in me. And it was just kind of that repetitive motion for the next 3 days. And every day feeling slightly better for sure. And getting used to the terrain. Like every day just felt better and better and better. And it was really dry too. Like there was a huge, just looking at the finishing, and this is just hearsay as far as I know, because like I said, I seriously haven't looked at the results at all. So, but I've heard that it's typically a 30% finish rate for silver class, which is the class I was doing. And this year it was like 70%. So it was like flipped. A lot more finishers, a lot faster, I think, than normal. I most likely, if we would have had rain, it would have been like a big struggle for me to even finish, because from what I hear, those hills deteriorate pretty rapidly when it's wet.
Right.
And that's why you get the only 30 people finishing. Or, you know, after 30 people go through a section, it becomes very, very difficult to even get through, let alone be competitive.
Right.
But yeah, so I kind of lucked out on that, I'd say. I mean, I wasn't in any place to be like making it harder on myself. Even though if I was healthy, I would have been saying that the whole time. Like, I wish it was harder. Like, not hard enough. Like, I'd be saying that. I know I would have been, because it was like relatively easy. Once you figured out the downs, there was really like, I never came around a corner on an uphill and was like, oh, where do I go? Like, where's the line? It was always just like, oh, I guess this is it here. And like, obviously downhills go forever, uphills also go forever, but nothing crazy.
Right.
So it was a crazy experience. It was, I definitely recommend it to anybody who likes that style of thing. Like, it is very much a rally. If you hate transferring from one hard enduro section to another hard enduro section, it might not be the race for you, because there is a lot of transfer, like a lot of like just trail.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the cool part, it seems, about that race on some level too. It's like you're riding I don't know exact mileage, right? Because it's in kilometers, but probably 60 miles roughly a day,
60
you know, give or take.
Yeah.
Which
60
is a lot.
miles a day. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, it adds up.
Yeah. No, the first day I think was 110 or 120 kilometers. And they were kind of all over the place as far as mileage goes. But I think every day I was finishing like right around like 1 or 2 p.m. I think. And they're early mornings too.
Yeah.
So get ready for that. Like
Yeah.
like 4:30 waking up. And I'm like walking from our Airbnb down to the shop to get a ride out to the starting line. And it's dark, fully dark, just after 4 in the morning. I had just like shoved some oatmeal and granola and yogurt in my face and got out the door, and I'm like walking around like, man, only people, like it's just me and the stray cats out here right now. Like both hungry, looking for the next thing to do. But yeah, it's pretty intense. It's something that, like I said, everybody, if you're interested in it, it's expensive, but if you can figure it out, it's worth doing.
With it being that long on the bike, I mean, it was probably 5 to 7 hours roughly a day.
Yeah.
What did you do different for nutrition than you would for like a 3 to 4 hour race?
So I would have been doing a lot better. So that's the other thing that the rental company I used was really awesome about, because every day you have a 20-minute mandatory stop. So you get a 20-minute break in the middle of the day at you go through a checkpoint. They stick a sticker to the side of your helmet with your in time, like check in time, and then you just add 20 minutes to that, and that's your checkout time. And there's a checkpoint on the other side of that that you start on your minute going out the other side 20 minutes later. So like in that check, like those guys were like on it. Like, I mean, you pull in, they're like waving you down. Like you pull over and they're like, anything wrong with the bike? And you like tell them if like, bent your shifter, like whatever needs replaced. They throw the bike on the stand, lube the chain, air filter if it needs it. Like, and then they have like a whole smorgasbord out there with like food and stuff. I really had no desire to eat the whole time. It was a big challenge, being sick with that too. So I was like, I was really just like looking at the big table stuff and like just whatever like caught my eye. I was not even thinking about, as far as like all that stuff we talked about before with like training and getting all my stuff figured out and like what I need to eat before and during and all that. I was at the point where I was seriously just like, I need calories.
Right.
Like I would look at the table and be like, okay, there's some watermelon there. Like that looks like I could eat it and not puke. Like I really was having a hard time with anything that I needed to chew a lot. Like I would like start to like get sick on it. So granola bars were out, like a lot of goos then.
Yeah.
Because that was like quick and easy and I didn't have to chew it. And I had those like on my bars too, but with it being so fast, like I really felt like I was expecting to have at least one time where I'd be like coming around a corner and be like, I feel like I need a quick break. And like I'd pull the thing off my bar and like take a goo real quick. But that never happened one time. I had the same hammer gels on my bars at the end of the race on day 5 that I did when I started the race. I never stopped one time to like take a break like that.
Right.
So I was really just eating a big breakfast as much as I could get in, and then that 20-minute break, whatever I could find. So it became definitely just it changed from like a precision effort, which makes sense in a way because you're going from, I mean, I think you hear that too with like a lot of the ultra guys, like the long distance hikers and long distance runners and stuff, where they're just kind of like everything kind of goes out the window and they're just looking for like calories.
Right.
And that's kind of the boat I was in. My plan was to just because my watch was saying with that much time on the bike, I really still was not going too crazy. Like my heart rate wasn't super high all day. And I was burning like the same calories I'd burn in a 3-hour race in 5 hours, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
At least that's what my like stuff was telling me.
Right.
But yeah, so it wasn't, I had no good answers for that. I was just like dying.
Yeah,
Survival.
more just survival and not, from a nutrition standpoint at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after the races, it was like gangbusters. Like, the food was hard for us there. Like, we never, like the last day we were there, we found the places where we're like, oh, like now we know where to go to eat.
Right.
But like leading up to that, like, I mean, there's one time we like saw Graham at a restaurant and we're like, oh, that's got to be good. Like he's eating there. Then we went there and we were like, I don't know what to get here because like everything's kind of shit. Not like bad food, but like unhealthy food or like,
right.
So I was like, and it's also everyone speaks English, which was awesome. I didn't think that would be the case. So every restaurant we went to, you could kind of like be a little more difficult. You could like change your order or be like, I have a problem with red sauce.
Yeah.
I don't know red sauce for me while during that, like any type of hard physical activity really screws with me. So, like pasta with no sauce, and I was like eating a lot of chicken and just piling it in.
Yeah.
And with the early starts, that's the other thing is like there's no, I mean, if you're a regular person, as far as bowel movements, like I don't typically go to the restroom before 4 a.m. So like I was trying to eat as early as I possibly could, like get off the bike and like get food in, because then like you don't want to be like 7 a.m. like an hour into the race, like okay, now it's my time, like
right,
I need to like use the restroom and like pull off somewhere, which was like a problem a lot of people were having for other reasons. There's a lot of food poisoning going around as well. I think it I don't know the exact details, but I know there's a lot of stomach bugs going around. A lot of people, I think Alfredo Gomez was out with a stomach issue.
Yeah.
So even the top guys weren't spared from that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very eventful week.
Yeah. Sounds like it. So you, are you planning on going back next year?
I don't think so. I think I'm taking a year off. I have no desire to do silver again. I just don't. I did it, and I wish I would have got the result I was looking for. But I would like to sometime in the future do a gold push.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that, and I won't be ready for it next year. And even that to me is like, it's really like, it's a hard enduro for sure. But it's also a dangerous enduro. Like I think just hearing some stories from Nick Farringer, who was over there racing this year, and we were renting from the same company, so we had some conversations and stuff. There's like a lot of situations they put you in gold where it's like a zero mistake zone. Right. It sounds like
yeah,
do or die.
Right. If people don't know, Nick Farringer won silver last year, right? I think it was last year.
Yep.
Got first place, and then this year raced gold class.
Yeah,
and this was his first year doing gold.
Yeah, and he had a few issues, but finished three of the 4 days.
Yeah,
but it wasn't lack of. Well, you'd have to talk to him about it, really, but yeah, I mean, he's an extremely good rider, like extremely good, and he was having some problems, and that was a little eye-opening as well, because that's somebody you can compare yourself to. Like a lot of those guys are like, I've raced in the same races as Nick enough times that I can look at our times and look at that kind of stuff and be like, okay, that's the gap between us.
Right.
But really, for most of us, the only race we could do that with any of the other guys that race that, other than Tristan, who, like, it's like, good luck measuring that gap. Need a longer tape measure. But would be TKO. Like Tennessee Knockout's the only time we get to see those guys, really. And it's just such a different race. Like, and they talk about that. Like TKO could not, like, if I had to pick the polar opposite of Romania, it would be TKO. So that's a hard comparison.
Right.
Just because TKO is a sprint, multiple sprints, like separated, even though some people wouldn't call an hour a sprint, but
it's a sprint.
It's a sprint.
Yeah.
Compared to a 6-hour race.
Right.
Yeah. So gold would be awesome, but it seems a little far away right now. But that being said, it's also like, you know, if you're very frugal, it is very cheap in Romania. Like food's cheap. I think my 20-minute taxi ride from the airport to the Airbnb was like $2.
Oh, wow.
It's like minimum wage is $2 and something American. It's it's not poor, not extremely impoverished, but everything's really cheap food. So once you get there, it's not terrible, but just the entry fees. And there's a lot of like little things that were like weird. Like having Mesa with me was awesome, but I had set it up, and most people that don't know us don't know that, like, that's like more or less Mesa's a planner for her job. Like she's like planning on how to do stuff. So I planned this half of the trip, and I am not a planner. I am like the guy that shows up on the starting line and they're like, oh, like, you don't know what you're doing? And I'm like, nope, tell me what I'm doing. They're like, you're going for 3 hours. I'm like, sweet, sounds good, see you in 3 hours.
Right.
But like, as far as like getting the accommodation with the hotel like included in the entry, there's like some weird stuff with like adding somebody. So like you initially, your payment is with you share a room with another racer is like the first price, and you can pay more to get your own room, but then you can pay more to have somebody like a significant other stay with you in that room, but it's like seems a little bit shisty to me, because like we sleep in the same bed,
Right.
Like, it's not like we're looking for like an extra, like a room with 2 beds now.
Right.
So why does the price change? And they're like, oh, well, she's going to be like in there with you. And I'm like, yeah, well, that doesn't really answer the question now, does it? Like, we don't pay like, because it's like a lot more. So we ended up getting an Airbnb. I had bought the accommodation, and then I bought we rented an Airbnb on top of that,
Oh,
because it
wow.
was cheaper than getting everything changed over.
Huh.
With that, so there's a bunch of like weird stuff like that. And the night we did, like the one night, I think it was, yeah, off-road day, in between off-road day 2 and 3, we spent a night in a different town called Ranka. You like ride out up into the mountains, high elevation, like ski town type deal, and you stay the night there, um, and then start there. You end there day 2, start there day 3. um, and that whole situation was like a little strange. uh, it's definitely not America. um, there's a lot going on. It's like, well, it just seems like I paid a lot of money to be like staying in a weird place like this, even though we were supposed to stay in a tent, which I'm stoked that didn't happen, or they changed it. Like the bivouac night,
Yeah.
I was not like, I actually, like, going back to not being a planner, like, I showed up in Romania with like my sleeping bag and tent. Everyone's like, we're not camping, right? And I was like, nope, finding out right now. And they're like, no, they changed it. We're staying in this other town instead of camping. And I was like, sweet, like, sounds good. But yeah, there's like a whole lot to learn. And I knew that was going to be the case, and I'm glad. I think it's necessary to, wherever you think you're at, whether you think you like, if you're a B rider, like if you're a middle of the pack B rider, I think bronze would be an awesome decision. If you're like torn between bronze and silver, um, it's like a tough call. But if you only plan on going once, it makes it even harder.
Right.
But if you plan on, like, maybe like, I want to do this more than once, like, I definitely just go with the um lower class and
Right.
work your way into it, just for you and your loved one's sanity, because it is a vacation, like,
Yeah, it's the destination ride.
yeah, there was definite times I was like, man, I kind of wish I was on, like, just chilling with Radu, like, on one of his tours,
Right.
and like doing some of these hard climbs and stuff on the side.
Right.
Because it's a weird thing to be paying that much cash. I mean, talk to different people, they say different things. I say 10 to 14K is what it is. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah. For
That's a bike. I could have stayed home and bought a dirt bike.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely, yeah, one of those things. It's destination ride. It's for some, and it's, if you want to do it, something to check out the list or go experience. But yeah, we have some friends locally who have done it a couple years now, and they've had similar. They've started off in bronze class, and I think a couple have dropped to iron, and a couple have kind of remained in bronze, and just every year, chipped away at getting to finish, and then finally gotten to finish. But it's 3 or 4 years of going over and doing it.
Yeah, I think bronze is a really good class from what I hear and what I see. I mean, it's the class with the most people in it, I think. I think bronze and iron have the most entries. And then silver, I don't even know how many entries there were this year. I think it was a couple hundred. I mean, it's challenging. It's scary. There's stuff you have to do, like, I mean, you can go through fast moving water in like a mountain river that's not seat deep, but very deep, and risk drowning your bike, or you can hit a freestyle jump that's like a 4 foot, yeah, probably like a 4 foot, like I'm sure everybody's seen them. There's a company that makes like ones that you can just buy them online, and they're like kits. But they said that they love those things. Love the freestyle jumps. I saw it and I was like, sweet, sweet, sweet. Like, guess we're gonna figure this out now.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna jump that looks like this for the first time in my life over a creek. Let's see what happens. But it was all good and fine. But there's definitely that spectator element where they're like, and there really wasn't much. Like, I feel like it was pretty tame. Like seeing like some of the shit they used to put you through, like in the videos, like the wooden features.
Yeah.
Where you come like to the end of the day and there'd be like some crazy like wall. You have to like stay on the wall to get over something or whatever. There really wasn't much of that. It's kind of I was like not upset about it.
Yeah.
But day four has some stuff. Day 4, there's like some teeter totters, and it was all pretty simple if you kept your like mental game together and didn't like freak out. There was a bronze rider right in front of me that took a deep dive, which gave me a bunch of confidence. Like got to the very top of the teeter totter. That's like 8 feet tall, or yeah, probably like 6 to 8 feet tall. And he was a shorter gentleman and tipped over off the top and was fine, but bike submerged. And that's like 2 miles from the finish line hill climb on day 5.
Goodness.
So that's like, to have something like that happen would be pretty brutal, especially if you couldn't get it back going.
Right.
But that's where you end your race. You don't get a finisher pin because 2 miles from the finish, you drown your bike over a teeter totter. Like,
part of the experience.
That'd be pretty crappy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So you come back Romaniacs, and then how long till TKO?
I think it was 2 weeks. So we got back into Cleveland, where we left all our stuff at my parents' house, and had to do our family rounds, all that family stuff, lunches and dinners every single day with a bunch of different people. Yeah. And they're all trying to get you to drink alcohol and eat a bunch of crappy food. So it was a struggle to stay like acting like you had an important race coming up in 2 weeks.
Right.
But then we cruised down to Tennessee and got rained out for 3 days where we were trying to ride. So the first time I rode was the prologue.
Since Romaniacs.
So I went through the finish of Romaniacs, and then I went through the start of TKO.
Nice.
And it worked out kind of. I love, like, TKO was awesome. I think that's such a cool event. And the straight rhythm in Nashville was like pretty awesome to see. Like, a lot of people put a lot of time, effort, and money into that experience, and I think it was like awesome.
Yeah,
it's super good for the sport. There were so many people, like I saw like so many like people that had no idea what was going on gain interest in it, and like they saw, whether they saw the practice and then came back and, or like would be like, hey, like when's the main or whatever, and they would come back for the main like 3 hours later.
Nice.
And they don't even know. I mean, all they've probably seen is like Supercross on TV or something.
Right.
So it was cool to see interest in people looking up videos of I was standing next to one guy, and they were like looking the people up as they were announcing him. And it was pretty cool to see that, like some exposure for sure.
Yeah, nice.
Because I know that was difficult. Like I know like Eric Bernard and a lot of other people had a big part in that, and I thank them for doing that for our sport and everybody involved. But then like TKO itself is such a progressive race, and they did a really good job, a better job this year. Everything's getting dialed in. Like hard enduro is a growing, evolving sport in the beginning stages still. Yeah. And you can see it, it's fast. At some point there's going to be a plateau where we start to figure shit out, but we're not there yet.
Right.
And like the beginning races were harder, so because they only take what is it, is 100 and somewhere between 100 and 200 people. There's a lot of racers too, 500 people I think. So they only take like top 200 into the second race, so there's 300 people that are showing up to race that first race, and that's important. Like you got to give them a ride.
Right.
You don't want them to go out and have, they're there for a hard enduro. Like they're not there for a hare scramble.
Right.
So you got to make sure that's like good for them. But
yeah, I feel like that's, it's the amateurs and, that grow the sport. And that's got to be such a hard thing from a promoter or race designer's standpoint, right? Like what's too hard, what's hard enough. And then, like the spectrum's so crazy.
Oh yeah.
That you need to provide. So yeah, hats off to everybody that does it, because it's a hard thing.
Yeah, it's hard, and and then you have to deal with weather.
Right.
Like you have to be like conscious that like now this section's impossible. Like for anybody but the top 10, like right. Or the top 25, I should say, at that race. So it's definitely difficult. They did an amazing job. I had a very good time. Bad qualifying, like we talked about at the beginning, like for the second race, the one that really met, or like the second qualifying prologue that was into for Sunday, just botched it straight up. Met 3 tries at the hill climb. You can't do that on a 20-minute loop.
Right.
You just can't. It just destroys you. Like as soon as I missed it the first time, I was like, well, looks like I'm starting in the back.
Right.
So I think I was in the 50s somewhere after qualifying, and I was really thinking it was 100% possible for me to make the top 30, and at least get into that LCQ straight rhythm, the Enduro Cross straight rhythm. And I think I would have, looking at the times, and like kind of, I can only guess my time because I timed out. But looking at him, I think I would have been in the top 30, and right. Pretty close to like maybe like 27th, like on the front half of that. But timed out like 30 yards from the finish.
Yeah.
They were like, stop, you're done. Took my transponder, and I looked at my watch, and I looked at the times of the people in that LCQ, and I was like, phew. I started like 15 minutes behind those guys, and timed out like the last guy had just finished and like went like through the finish and into the straight rhythm, and he started like in the 30s. So that was pretty. There's a lot of like hard situations with all that, but I know that I have that ability. That being said, I was pretty done. So if I would have gotten the LCQ, I would have promptly lost to James Flynn, who is like an awesome rider, awesome dude, and I ride with him a bit down in Arizona in the winter and stuff, and yeah, he's getting it figured out, and he deserved to be in that top 25, and it would have came through either way. And I'm just not there yet, but I'm working on it, and the goal next year is like straight up like there's no way I'm not making that top 25 in TKO unless like something horrible happens. um uh but yeah, like, and then you get to watch that because like, you know, mere mortals can't make that top 15
Right.
for the next race, for the final. So everyone but 15 guys gets to go out and watch those guys battle it out.
Yeah.
And do the lines that you were struggling with in ways that you didn't think were possible. So it's super fun. Like the whole experience, like I think it's like one of the cooler events in the world. I really do, because it's got it all. Like you get your full weekend of racing in, and then you get to watch the top guys battle it out on like some really cool terrain. So
right.
It's an awesome weekend.
And not just the top guys in the US anymore. I mean, now it's part of the West Series, like it's best in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's deserving of that being, I think it's deserving of the West. There's some people that might argue that point.
Right.
That they think it might not be worthy of that West series, but I think it is. I think that being said, there's other races in the United States that are worthy of the West being a West round.
Right.
Like Grinding Stone definitely has the grandeur of like a world stage event. Like, I mean, it's a destination where like Tennessee is like a cool place for sure.
Right.
But I mean, just like Antelope Canyon and all that, like cool red, like nowhere else in the world really you get that red rock like that than like the Southwest United States.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a unique venue, unique place.
Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked to see the progress of everything.
Yeah, for sure, especially with where it's come even the last couple of years.
Yeah, from nothing basically.
Right.
From like 3 independent rounds.
Yeah.
And some like locals that were like kind of like known for being hard hair scrambles.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, I think we should make the move to hard enduro, like actual hard enduro, in like advertise it as that. It's awesome to see it grow, and I'm excited to be a part of it and like here for it.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you got coming up?
So I was supposed to do Outliers in Canada, and that would have been my 3rd FIM round of the year, which would have been pretty sweet. Like to get like, not that it would be even cooler if I was gold, because then I could get gold points, you know, which is it'd be pretty cool to like, because I think 3 rounds, even if you don't finish good, you could probably get a top 20. There's not that many guys going to 3 rounds.
Right.
Like, obviously when you get to the top, everyone goes everywhere.
Right.
But
your privateer status, basically.
Yeah. It'd just be cool to see that like world ranking result, even if it's last.
Yeah, for sure.
like 31st out of 31 gold class FIM points would be like awesome. But we're not doing that. We kind of like I mean, it's just been such a wild year. So much travel, 50,000 miles on our truck and camper this year. Total of 3 weeks being home in the last 7 months.
Wow.
Mainly due to racing, but some work stuff too. And so we got back, and then this sea to sky thing fell into our laps. And me and Mesa are doing sea to sky. Well, Mesa's on the fence about it. We're both going to be over there. And like after that happened, and we're going to be gone for the entire basically month of October. We're going to be there for like 2.5 weeks. We decided that like we can't just drive to Canada right now. We got to like we got to try to be like responsible for at least like 3 weeks out of the year is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like 3 out of 52 of responsibility.
Yeah. At least it sets the bar low.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can only go more responsible from here.
Exactly.
So yeah, Outliers is out, and to be honest, like big hill climbs. Another, I loved Bent Night Brawl, but this race has Bent Night Brawl vibes, and I'm a rock guy. Like I like rocks.
Yeah.
And I don't think that'll ever change. Hill climbs are fun. But I just didn't have the allure that like Sea Sky has.
Yeah, no, for sure. That race has always looked cool.
Yeah. So we're stoked on that. That's coming up October 6th. We head out there, and then I think it's the actual race starts like maybe the 18th through the 20th of October, end of October is the race. So we're like definitely getting very excited about that, and then that'll be the last race of the year. Then I get an actual off season, and actually do the things I want to do without having to, like Turkey. I'm still gonna try. Like this last bit, I've kind of fallen off of like training and stuff, for sure. Like it's been insane, and then I was still. I mean, when I got back from Romania and I was putting my bike back together, I was like, I put the forks back on the bike, and I was like, this was 2 days after I got home. And it was a long trip too, because we used points, and you get ping ponged all over the world trying to get back to Cleveland. So it was 2 days after that, and I put the forks on the bike, and like I go into the bathroom to wash my hands, and I was like, man, I'm just so tired right now. And I like sat down on the toilet seat just so I could like wash my hands. I was like, holy crap, like I am like literally destroyed right now. Like I just feel like tired 24/7. And I'm finally getting out of that now. So I'm ready to get back to training, get to see this guy thing through, and like hit it hard this off season.
Yeah. What are your main plans this off season? Like what if you had, like, from all the experience you've gained this year, like what would be kind of the lowest hanging fruit that you're looking to improve for next season?
Well, everyone loves doing the things they love doing on the bike, and that's typically coincides perfectly with what people are good at. So hill climbs, it's a problem. It's a big problem for me. I'm horrible at them. Like,
what kind are you thinking? Like, because I mean, I would assume Romania has a shit ton of hill climbs, but they're different, right? They're kind of tic-tac switchbacks, work your way top, or like Bent Night, which is just full blast from the bottom.
Yeah, more like Bent Night Brawl style hill climbs, and just really just wide open, like you let off and you're done type stuff. It doesn't matter, like fist size rocks, bowling ball size rocks, loose sand, Bent Night clay, hill climbs in general, like is a spot I fall short. Rock gardens all day long, I love it, and I'm good at it, at least better than that, than hill climb stuff. So definitely need to like train and practice with that stuff. And I'll be in Arizona again for the winter. So perfect weather and lots of training.
Yeah, there's a couple loose hills in Arizona.
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, I'm gonna have to like just it's like you don't like doing it. Like it sucks to go out and just like and it's not my favorite thing. Like I could play trial style on like I'm like a little kid that gets like a, you know, they say they get like a nice new thing for Christmas or whatever, and then like all day long they play with like a stick. Like that's my mentality where like I could have like 3 boulders, various sizes, and I could enjoy myself with those 3 boulders like all day long, trying different things, try to wheel tap them, try to like nose pivot off one, like Rich Larson style, like riding, trials riding on a big bike. I love it. Like endless. I just do it all day long. I don't get bored of it.
Right.
So of course that's what I progress at, and then hill climbing. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to the top of that, so I'm just not even gonna try.
Right.
Like when in training, like, which is also like that's why I hope to get linked up with James again down there, and he pushes me. It's so important. It's so important to have somebody that's better than you, like to ride with, at least sometimes. Like I guarantee anyone that goes out and rides with people better than them will show more progress than the person that's going out alone or with only people that are worse riders.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So yeah, I need to do that. And then fitness is a constant, like, it doesn't matter how fit you are, it doesn't matter, like it's important. It's potentially, it's equally important as skill, and bike setup and everything else. Like, so I need to work on that like everybody does.
Yeah.
And that's where like the off seasons, like, I mean, you can train on the bike in between races, like go on rides and do that type of stuff, but you can't really like show like big gains of physical improvement during the season, especially when you're just destroying yourself in the long traveling and working and everything else going on. Like the off season is the time to like kind of put a foot down and like take a step back and be like, all right, like I need to like go in the gym and do stuff because like it's just necessary. You got to do it at a certain level. Once you get to a certain level, for sure.
Yeah.
So I definitely plan on doing that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely, you have a limited amount of, time and energy, and in season, you need to reserve that for the competition floor essentially. And so, you're not going to be spending your weekdays just going and crushing yourself and then hoping to recover in time. You're right. You're at best maintaining what you've built out or started with at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I always think of it that way. It's like you're building up your fitness, you're building up your strength, and then during the off season, and then you use it. And essentially it, parts of it stay, parts of it go away. You get or better in some areas just with the riding that you are doing and stuff. And you get not as good in the areas that you're kind of not using on the bike, but are so necessary just to stay injury free. Hopefully, obviously that can't be completely controlled, but definitely help mitigate overuse injuries and all that stuff. Yeah, super important.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Yeah, it's something I've severely like tried to avoid it. Like it seems like I'm like No, I'm not that. I'm not that. It's also easy. Like it's easy to like even subconsciously have like feel like it's an out for you. Like you do bad at a race and then you talk to somebody about it and you're like, oh no, I'm just that guy. Like I don't even train that hard.
Right.
And like I'm doing really good for somebody that doesn't train really hard.
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
easy to fall into that. Like
Yeah.
have it's like you find yourself excuses without even thinking about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I think there's a lot of that for people who just don't race as well,
Yeah.
you know? Oh, I don't want to race because it costs some money, or I don't want to race because of the traveler. I don't, and it's like, yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe you're scared to see where you stack up.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I know a couple. Yeah, I got a couple stories about that. That's of people that are just like, or people that get like hit up and like they're say they're Instagram people or whatever, and they go to a race finally, and then they post something small about it, and then everyone's like, "Where'd you place? Where'd you place? Where'd you place?" Like the comments are just like,
Yeah.
like, and they're like, "Man, like, why does everyone want to know how I did?" It's like, because you talk a big game on here. You gotta
Right.
like,
It's like Litter
everyone wants to
King's
see like,
comments.
like if you're actually good or not.
Yeah.
Because that's like really, it is the end all be all. Competition is the, I mean, that's why we do it. That's why it exists. It's to see where you stack up in the world against everyone else that does the stuff you do, and also make connections. And I mean, we've met so many good, awesome people, um, and you know, everyone's is relatively like-minded. Um, like typically, if you take everybody that likes hard enduro and put them in a room, everybody's going to get along because we all like the same stuff. We all do the
Right.
same things. Like it's just like nature. So it's cool to like this. Just so many good people
Yeah.
we've met through racing.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely don't want to come off like racing's the end all be all, but I do think there's something to say for getting out of your comfort zone, you know,
Oh
whether
yeah,
that's trying new trails, new techniques, doing the hill climbs when you don't want to do them, right? Like there's so many ways to go about continually pushing yourself, but I think that part of it's super important. Like
yeah,
not letting yourself settle, and it doesn't even have to be dirt bike, it could be any part of your life, but at some point you need to do things that like make you nervous
yep,
again, because for whatever reason, it's like when you get out of high school or quit playing sports or quit trying new things, you lose that. Like I know so many people that have gone years without doing anything that like makes them really nervous.
yeah,
And yeah, I think you need to keep doing that for as long as possible.
yeah. It's super good for you. Yeah, it's definitely good for your mental health and everything. Like difficult pursuits make you feel better in your everyday life, whether that's in the gym or dirt biking or doing whatever you like to do, hiking, whatever. Like
Totally.
you hike to the top of a mountain that's like super gnarly, and then you get back down, and it's like cold or like shit weather, and like you're miserable, and you succeed and you do it, and then you get home, and then you look at the pile of dirty clothes sitting on your floor, and you're like, well, I just climbed the fucking mountain. Like I can clean those clothes. Like it's no problem. Like
Yeah.
like everything else is like better and easier, and it makes your whole life better. And like that's something that I think we all find in hard technical dirt bike riding is that sense of overcoming difficulties, and yeah, it's really awesome. It's a good time.
Totally. Yeah. And I feel like there's that same feeling is what you can accomplish through gym training and hard exercise and stuff like that, because it's at the end of the day it's the same thing. If you put yourself in situations that are challenging, or maybe you don't think you can finish or whatever, but then you do, you start to gain all these small wins, right? And all that stuff just starts to build up over time, and the trivial things that used to set you off or fly off the handle about just kind of settle down and they get put in perspective a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. it's a very strange thing that that with working out, it goes across so many different fields, but like with working out, you could be at the beginning and just be like, I don't want to do this at all. I hate this. I don't like it. I feel awkward. I don't know what I'm doing. I look stupid. What does everyone think? I like, and then you get done with it and you're like, I actually feel pretty good. Like, I wonder why I was thinking all that stuff before. And the more you do that, the more you get used to that. The less of the disconnect there is, and that goes with like healthy eating too. Like, it's so easy to fall into patterns of like you get so it's like the frog boiling in the pot thing. Like, you like slowly fall off the wagon of eating healthy.
Yep.
And you don't realize what's happening, and then you're like, I mean, I don't feel terrible. I think I can keep this up. I think a few more candy bars wouldn't hurt me.
Right.
Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I didn't feel too bad on the bike today, or whatever. And then you like eat healthy for 3 days and you're just like, I'm just going to do it. And then you like wake up even the third day of like cutting out the sugar, even just like cutting out sugar, say, and you wake up that third day and you're like, you know what? Like, why do I feel so good right now? Like,
Yeah.
it happens. And it's like weird that we like, you can't see that from the other side.
Totally.
Because if you could, everyone would just do it.
Yeah. I think people are so disconnected from how good they could feel.
Yeah.
Like you slowly, like you're saying, you almost slowly work yourself into this area, which is where you are now, or, your current state. But if you don't know where you could be feeling, it's hard to imagine, because you are just kind of are where you are, and this is what I do, and I get by, and I'm pretty good at this. And
yeah, we're definitely better at dealing with stuff than changing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, dealing with the way we feel than changing the way we feel.
Yeah.
Just easier.
Totally. Well, change is scary. Change is hard. Change takes effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's everybody could use a little more of it. A little more change.
A little more change.
A little more change. Even if it goes the wrong way, then
Yeah, right. Maybe you feel too
try
good.
something and you're like, I tried doing this and like I hate it. Well, now you know. You don't like hard enduro racing.
Yeah, right.
You go back to the hair scrambles. Like, now you don't like it. So you're a better person for it now.
Still
now you can talk about it and be educated too, which is a big part of like just being like just not just talking. I try so hard not to talk out of place. Like, I wouldn't talk about stuff I know nothing about, or try not to talk about stuff I know nothing about. Because it's just like, now you're not going to do it. Like, you need to like stay in your zone, and then like once you do the thing, then you can talk about it.
Right.
Because it's like an extra motivation to like try new things and expand yourself in everything.
Totally. And there's something to say for, I mean, I've done this as well, but had something that I really wanted to do that I've even put some thought into, and then I've talked about it. And even just talking about it, you get a little bit of that like uplift, like, oh yeah, like that's pretty cool. And then, but now you've said it, and you get that little dopamine rush or whatever it is, and then it kind of goes away in a day or two, and then there's not as much follow through, and potentially that thing never happens. Yeah. And it's a crazy thing that like just by talking about something like that, we're crazy things that are walking.
Yeah.
That you lose the drive to get that follow through done.
Right. And that is why it's so important to surround yourself with good people. just in everything, because that, like, no one has discipline every single day. Like, we need motivation. It's a good thing. Like, you can't rely on motivation. You need discipline. But like, you surround yourself with the right people and you find yourself making better decisions. Because like you said, you talk about something that, like, you sit there and talk to somebody that's like have a conversation about riding, and then you're like, well, what are you doing tomorrow? Like, you're stoked on it. Like, and then you're like, oh, I don't know, we should go. What do you want to do? Like, okay, let's go out and let's go do a super hard dirt bike ride. Like, okay, I'll go with you. And like, that's way better than like sitting around and being like, there's like a Supercross is on TV this weekend. Let's go to the bar and drink some beers and watch those guys that talk about stuff better than we do.
Yeah, exactly. No, totally. Yeah, environment's so important.
Yeah. So I think I'm figuring that out now after 27 years. I'm starting to figure out that there's some people I probably shouldn't hang out with, and other people that are really, really good for me. And it sounds a little bit selfish, but it's just the way to make it not selfish is to be really good for them.
Right. Yeah. What is it? The sum of the five people you are the sum of the five people you hang around with, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I've always, well, not always, in the most recent years, been like, not only do I want to be the sum of the five people I hang around, so surround myself with good people, but I'd also like to be put in that category for other people.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So anyways, lifelong pursuits for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Joe Nemeth. Somebody said, who was I talking to? Whatever. And they were like, they thought that your name was Joe Nemeth.
Oh yeah.
Like the quarterback.
Yeah. There's like a constant. It's a constant.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. They're like, I don't know, man. His parents, they must have been either pretty good football fans or didn't know about it. And I was like, it's not Nemeth, it's Nemeth.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's constant.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of you? What do you got going for social media and all that stuff? And
I'm really just on Instagram. That's like my only deal, and it's just Joe Nemeth 27 on there. And I'm trying to be better about it. I'm not like that is very much another thing. If I was going to put another thing in the category of off-season things to get better at, is technology and using it. A lot of people have problems like watching too many reels. I have problems making reels. So I'm trying to put out some actual like good entertaining content for people that are into that sort of thing, and it's a really important. It's very important to just be out there and part of the community. So yeah, Instagram's where it's at, and everything else I'm not on there. But.
Awesome. That's great. Well, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us today, and stoked to work with you this year and see what we can come up with, and getting ready for next year.
Yeah, I'm stoked for the off season and the Enduro Method, doing that stuff, and like the little bit of time we had in that like kind of what was really like inopportune timing right after round one.
Yeah, right.
But that I realized that I had a problem, which is like makes sense. But yeah, no, this off season I'm stoked to like finally get like the time I need to like get into the depths of the Enduro Method stuff, and like do some actual in gym training and figure that all out. So yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And yeah, good luck at Sea to Sky. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, for sure.